So we're going to come up here to image size, and what we're going to do is basically they all want it to be 4,000 pixels. Some say they want it to be 200 here, others will say 72. It really doesn't matter as long as the longest one is 4,000 pixels. Thing is, you really probably want some sort of border on here. If you just make this a full 4,000 pixels, when it comes up for judging, I usually think it needs a little more. So I always tend to put a border on. So let's just give it a little border. This is my longest size. So this right here, I'm going to make 3,800 pixels. Let this one go wherever it goes, and we'll save it at 200 DPI. We'll just say OK. And now that sizes it for us. Now we want to put a border around it. So the first thing you're going to want to do is come over here. And if you look right here, there's a little lock button. See that lock button right there? You're going to want to hold just unlock it. All right. And then what you're going to do is add another layer. If you hold the command key and hit this layer, it will be put underneath automatically, so you don't have to go ahead and move anything around. Next thing we want to do is make this the size that we actually want now. So now instead of image size, we're going to come down here to canvas size. And we're going to tell it, well, we want that to be 4,000 pixels, since that is what all the competitions are asking for. And so that's adding 200. So if I add 200 here, that would make it a border completely all the same all the way around. So let's do that. Let's just add 200. So now, what am I saying? 7. And we say OK. And you can see now we have an equal border all the way around. So the next thing we want to do is add a color to this. Guys, don't get crazy with this. I've seen too many prints where people have, and they just end up looking horrible when you start going too crazy. If you're not sure, a black border is always good. If you want to do some other things, pull a color out and darken it. For this one, I'm going to show a second one. For this one, I'm going to do just a black one. So I make sure my default color is black. Hold the Option key and hit the Delete key, and that fills my background layer with black. Now for this, that might be okay, but someone might want, you might need to have some sort of stroke all the way around your image. So what you do is you take and press down the Command key and click on that image right there, and it has selected it now. We're going to make sure we're selected on this layer, add a new layer. Let's just make this a white one. You probably won't. Now, actually, let's make it a different color. Let's select this yellow. Let's make it a little bit darker. All right. So we have that color selected. We're going to come up to Edit, Stroke. Anywhere from 2 to 4 pixels. I usually won't go more than 4 pixels. Let's just use 3. Here's the important thing. Make sure you say inside. That way it will give you nice square corners. If you use center or outside, it will start trying to round those corners. And most of the time you don't want that. We have our color, 100% normal. Say OK. So let's deselect that. So now you can see we have a nice stroke around there, kind of that color of that. That works pretty well. So now we need to flatten the image. So let's come up here to Layer and Flatten Image. You can see now we're flattened. We're just on one layer here. Next thing we want to do is go ahead and make sure it's the correct color profile. So come down to Convert to Color Profile. Again, I'm in Pro Color right here, Pro Photo. We want it to be in either Adobe RGB or what's the other one? sRGB. I usually just stay with Adobe. Both of them are fine to use. So we say that. We'll say OK. And then the next thing that we're going to do is come down here to Mode and make sure we're on 8 bits. So now we've converted it. It's flattened. It's in the correct color space. It's in the correct color bit mode. So now all we have to do is come over here, Save As, put it wherever we're going to put it. I'll just throw it on my desktop and give it a name that you want, but you want to make sure, let me get this up here a little bit so you can see it. You want to make sure you save it as a JPEG. That's what they want. You can see my embedded color profiles right here, and it is embedded. And then just save it, and you'd probably rename this. This may be named, they usually want a name. Here we go, we got a name. Save it on my desktop. Good. Now the next thing they're going to do when this comes up is you want to make sure preview is selected. And depending on the competition, some say they only want it to be no bigger than 5 megabytes. Some say 10. Most of them will say save it as your quality as 10. You see, this preview is going to tell us, okay, 3.5. That's probably be fine for what we're doing here. Say okay. And then that one's ready to go. So that was a horizontal one. Let's do a vertical one. All right. We're going to go through the same process. We're going to come over here, unlock our image. Let's go ahead to image size. Find our longest one, which this time is the height. Actually, first we want to do this. Put 200 DPI in it. Change this right here to, and this one I am going to go 3800 because I want a little bit smaller than what it's going to end up being because I want a border around it. Say OK. Next thing we want to do is hold the command key, click our new layer icon, and the new layer will be underneath us. We'll come up here. We're going to say canvas size. Again, we'll go 4,000. And this time, instead of doing that, let's be a little bit more creative on this one. I normally wouldn't do this, but we'll show you just, we'll go 400 more, so that would be 29. And now I can come over here and move my image a little bit. Use the move tool right here. Kind of move this over. You can be more precise if you want. I'm just kind of showing you what to do here. Let's come up a little bit so you can see this a little bit better. That looks good. Let's colorize this one. Now, let's do something a little bit different. Let's pull a color out of here. Let's say this rust color right here. And usually you want it to be a fairly dark color. Make sure we're on our background layer. Go ahead and Option Delete will fill it with that color. That looks kind of boring. So let's come up to Filter, Noise, Add Noise. You can see we start to get a little bit of a texture in there. Not bad. I think I'll go with that. Usually you want to be uniform and you'll want to be monochromatic. Gauzy, I'll give it a little bit different look. We'll stay with this. Now, to me, that's still too bright. So I want to darken that down. So all I'm going to do is hit make a curve layer and darken that down. That looks pretty good. Now, we could do a stroke on here, but let's do something different. Let's go back to our main layer. Let's come over here to FX, and we'll add a drop shadow right here. And let's point it this way. Let's give it some distance, some spread, some size. Something like this. Maybe take the opacity down just a little bit. And there we go. That's another nice way of separating your image from your background. We'll come back here, go up to Image, Layers, Flatten Image. Now we're flat. We're at our right size. So next thing we have to do is come here, Convert to Profiles. Make sure it's going to Adobe RGB. Say OK. Again, mode 8-bit. Come up here, Save As. We are going to save it as a JPEG. Let's just put it back on the desktop. All that's good. Press save. It's 7.9. That may be too big for some people. You might have to take it down to 9. It just depends. Make sure you check and see what they say their maximum file size is. Most of them will say something. If you go a little larger, you're okay though. We save it and we're done.